McCollum is still with us. Thanks for sticking around, CJ.
Appreciate it.
Much appreciated. Last night, the Cavaliers dominated the Raptors again. LeBron James dropped 43 points, 14 assists in the very easy win. You know why it was so easy? Because Kevin Love decided to play basketball last night. 31 points out of Love. Cavs up 2-0 in this series now. CJ, I ask you, how are LeBron and the Cavs able to just dominate Toronto like this? Is it a psychological edge they have, or are they just really the better team here?
I don't know if it's necessarily psychological, but it kind of sits in the back of your mind when you lose to a team multiple years in a row and you're going against arguably, you know, the greatest player to ever play the game. But I think it all starts with LeBron and Ty Lue kind of mixing and matching the lineups. Putting Kevin Love at the 5 last night was big and an underrated thing that went
Sticking
unnoticed.
with it, too, yeah.
Being able to get Valanciunas in pick and rolls, LeBron exploit mismatches, you know, kind of playing chess with the game, and then you got the fadeaway going, and it's ironic, you know, the shoot-around Kevin Love talked about, LeBron calling his spots out, you know, basically saying that I'm going to get the switch here, and he scored a few baskets over Kyle Lowry, he scored a few baskets over DeMar DeRozan, and kind of, you know, went through the pick of the litter. But I think with him playing the 1 and being able to kind of direct things, he's going to be hard to beat until he gets to the finals.
When LeBron's jumper's falling, there's no counterpunch, right? I mean, is there? I mean, you've been breaking it down great the last 20 minutes, but I've never seen one when LeBron's jumper's falling, a competent counterpunch defensively.
Man, what did we see last night?
I don't know, honestly. I think that's his lock.
And you're a shot maker. You and Dane, bro, y'all make some shots.
Right.
Y'all cross some people over. Y'all make some. Y'all stay on the highlights. What LeBron did last night, I haven't seen someone shoot like that, those types of shots, since Kobe.
Yeah, you could argue that Kobe hasn't done that. You know, 8 fadeaway jumpers and a half, you know, contested. And I talked about the amount of space and watching his footwork, the amount of space he covers on his spin when he pivots and shimmies and, you know, either goes baseline or goes towards the middle. It's essentially unstoppable. I think that you have to, at some point, you see the double team, you know, when he turns his back, because he's too good of a passer to see the double team coming. So I think you wait until, you know, second dribble or third dribble, and you make somebody else beat you. You can't allow him to average 34, 9, and 9. You know, throughout the entire playoffs, make him get 30 and take away the 9 assists, or make him pass and make obviously Kevin Love had 30 last night, but make the George Hills of the world, the other guys, step up and make shots, which they're capable of. But would you rather have LeBron shooting or role players?
What Jen alluded to in the beginning, the psychological edge. Going into the playoffs, I thought the Pacers, I didn't think they'd take them 7. I thought the Pacers were potentially a tougher out than Toronto. And it wasn't because Toronto's not good. Toronto won 59 games.
Right.
They got the best bench in the league. They are fully healthy. I just think DeRozan and Lowry I think they're awesome players. I think they have a psychological hurdle with him. Like, are you laughing because you don't think that exists, or because you can see it?
I don't think it exists with them. I think it exists with some players, but in this particular situation, watching them, knowing them, understanding the game and kind of what's happened, Kyle Lowry started the game 6 for 6. He had 18 points, picked up his 3rd foul, picked up his 4th foul, and that kind of changed how he was playing from an aggressive standpoint. But you look at the numbers, you know, they've been pretty efficient, pretty effective. They're scoring 20-plus points. Game 1 was pivotal. That game 1, Fred VanVleet had 2 great looks for 3. If they win game 1, no, we're not talking about a psychological advantage here. It may be a split, 1-1 going back to Cleveland, which is pretty ideal because you can win in Cleveland. But the fact that they lost that game and DeMar didn't take the mid-range jumper, which he normally takes, people start to question decision-making.
I think the psychological is critical, especially coming from a professional athlete. I feel the same way about it.
Right.
You can just be a bad matchup. You can have a team's number,
right,
but it's not as much when you're talking about the best of the best. It's hard to get in their head. LeBron is better than them. Even though the team's improved, they still haven't improved the amount of bodies they can send at LeBron. Their bench players, they can't defend LeBron, and just because they're the faces of the franchises, they get the criticism. Right. How does Toronto get back in this? You mentioned double-team LeBron. What else does Toronto need to do to be able to get at least a win in Cleveland?
I think looking at the rotation that they have in place, obviously, you know, their coach has done a great job of playing the bench, you know, extending 10, 11, 12 players. But when they have a chance to widen the gap or extend the lead, go up 10, go up 15, I think you keep DeRozan or Lowry in the game at all times. I think you change the rotation a little bit in the sense that you play your bench players, but you keep one of them in the game to allow them to either get a rhythm, extend the rhythm, or stay hot, because in game 1, they were up 10, 15 points. And that's your chance.
At one point.
That's your chance to close the door. You keep one of those guys in, extend the lead, and then when LeBron goes LeBron mode in the 4th quarter, it's a bigger advantage.
CJ, we've seen two different Cavaliers teams so far this postseason. LeBron has been the constant in both. We've seen one without any role player production and one with role player production. And when the role players show up, and I'm not even being mean here, when the role players show up, they look like a complete team, or a fairly complete team, especially when you get 31 out of Kevin Love like you did last night. Which team do you think we see moving forward now? Do you think they got over the hump and all the other role players are going to now step up?
I think they get out of the Eastern Conference, and it'll be a different story when they get to the finals. But I think they get out of the Eastern Conference regardless of role players stepping up. LeBron's good enough to.
So the same team that played the Pacers that could easily get through to the Eastern Conference.
I think they're good enough to win because LeBron will empower them. Kevin Love will be more consistent. I don't know if he'll get 30 every night, but he'll be able to get you 18 and 25. I think J.R. Smith's found his stroke. He's the best bad shot maker I've ever seen in my life.
Bad footwork.
He can hit from half court at the end of the game. He's one of the few guys that likes to get the ball late in the shot clock. I also like to get the ball late in the shot clock, but I can admire that because he has that mentality to where no matter what he's shooting from the field, you think he's 10 for 10.
The late in the shot clock thing's interesting. You and JR are also some of the guys that at the end of quarters don't do the fake half-court shot.
No, you shoot it.
When I say the fake, there's a thing in the regular season particularly, guys, they get the ball with 2 seconds left in the quarter. They will wait 2.5 seconds and then put up the shot so it doesn't hurt their field goal percentage. You and JR, you're not concerned about the field goal. Not that you don't care about your field goal percentage, but you like those moments. You think you make those shots. And JR, you feel more comfortable with JR. He has a wide-open three. Don't take that, please. Please take a dribble, pump fake, have a guy coming at you, and then fade to the side. Like, that's his shot.
Yeah, he's been playing terrific for them. You look at his efficiency these last couple games, and you talked about the half-court shot. In that Pacers series, that half-court shot he hit was essentially the difference in the game. And people complained about him not passing the ball to Bron at the end of that game. It was about 3 seconds left. If he passes that ball, they probably don't even get a shot off. So you got, like you said before, I like him shooting step backs. I like him shooting pump fake threes, but his catch and shoot three is underrated.
You talked about Cleveland would get through the East, so let's get to the finals. Cleveland, you don't have them good enough. Who do you have coming out of the West, and who do you have winning?
That's tough. I didn't say Cleveland's not good enough. Anything can happen in the playoffs. I just think that it's going to be tough to beat a Western Conference team with inconsistent play from the rest of the squad. They can't play how they've played up to this point and beat a Western Conference team, whoever comes out. But I think it's going to be tough. I think the Warriors have the depth. They have the health now with Steph Curry getting the game under his belt and essentially seeming like he's back to his old self, if not better, more efficient. The Houston Rockets are playing well. They dropped the game at home, but I think they'll tighten up the ship a little bit and make some adjustments and eventually get through that series. But I think it's going to be an interesting Western Conference finals game, but I probably have the Warriors advancing.
Have you ever, I apologize for not knowing this, gone through a stretch similar to what Kevin Love was going through prior to last night?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when Love was 15 of 56 in his last 5 games. And it's tough. And a lot of them were good looks. He wasn't just shooting range shots. A lot of those were within 5 feet. At some point does struggle beget more struggle? Like, how do you break out of it? Like, Love broke out of it last night because the Cavs were force feeding him. They were either going to lose that game or they were going to get Kevin Love back on track. Like, take us through what Kevin Love was going through.
Yeah, I went through a few slumps this season, and people were asking me about it, writing articles about, like, this is the longest slump of your career, 6 games of shooting 36 or 35% from the field. And I'm like, look, man, I've been through a lot worse than poor shooting nights. I think it's more about continuing to do the work, studying film. I broke down every mid-range shot I took, every pick and roll, every three-pointer, look at the form, and chart the misses and the makes. And I think Kevin Love probably went through a similar thing to where he's looking like, I'm missing, paint shots. I know I can make those. Let me focus on these three-pointers. Let me get some free throws to find my rhythm, get to the line early, and then establish that rhythm. And I think that's what he did. He got a backdoor cut for a dunk. He got to the free throw line, and then when you shoot that first three-pointer, it's not your first shot of the game. And I think that's how he essentially got out of it, and that's how I got out of the slump. And just try to be aggressive and understand that everything will even itself out.
CJ, it's a shame that you don't really know that much about basketball. Because if you did, I feel like we would learn so much more from you. Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, I launched a podcast about 5 weeks ago. It's called Pull Up. You can subscribe don't know which camera. You can subscribe anywhere, and Apple Music, Spotify, everywhere. I basically talk about the NBA, things that are enjoyable to me, like my Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield being drafted. Shout out to Baker Mayfield. Talk about different wines I'm drinking. You know, we got a lot of great Pinot Noirs in Oregon.
Ooh.
Talk about current events, and my co-host is Jordan Schultz, and we're bringing on guests slowly. D-Wade was my first guest, and we kind of put a hold on guests because of the fact that we are in the NBA playoffs. But I'll have a lot of guests, entrepreneurs, businessmen and women.
And it's called?
It's called Pull Up.
Pull Up.
Pull Up.
Okay.
If you go to the podcast store or iTunes store, you don't even have to type in your full name. Pull Up. It'll be the first thing that comes up. I know Jordan a little bit. I'm also a podcast nerd. It's awesome. I've really enjoyed it. I don't know anything about wine, but everything else I'm into it.
I'll send you something. Give me your address.
Okay, I appreciate that. Also, Cece's usually one getting the free stuff on the show.
I got
Take
you,
that.
Cece.
The NBA Community Assist Award. You've been nominated for it. It is, I would imagine, for you up there with any accolade you've been nominated for as a professional athlete. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. I'm honored to be nominated for. I think this is my second year, and being able to take advantage of the platform I have, give back to kids who look like me and come from places like me, understanding that I have a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club where I launched the C.J. McCollum Dream Center, which is basically a safe place where I renovate the room. I provide laptops, computers, coding classes and instructions, and we potentially give out jobs. So just being able to provide different things kids would normally experience. And then being a journalism major, I launched CJ's Press Pass a few years ago, where it's a young journalism mentorship program to where basically teach young kids what it's like to be a journalist, invite them to a game, allow ESPN, different companies to kind of mentor them at a game, and just basically showing them that there's a lot of things out there, and besides the people who speak about sports, there's people behind the scenes, the cameras, and everything, so they get to see all of that.
CJ, it's very impressive. You're doing so much with the time that you have within basketball and without, and outside of it, obviously. And
Yeah, if you need an internship for one of your kids,
Yes.
FS1, we can do it right here in New York City, or I can send them out to Los Angeles.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All right.
we'd
Keep
love
that
to
in
be
mind.
cool.
All right, so you send Nick some wine, we'll coordinate and get your contact information, and we'll see if we can put that together.
Hey, CJ,
Awesome. I appreciate that.
wine. Right here.
For General.
Yeah, because I got to work with these two
And
every day.
he's totally serious about the internship thing.
No,
We'd love to be a part of that.
I sincerely appreciate
CJ McCollum, thank you so much.
Great
Enjoy
job.
the offseason.
Appreciate you.
More First
OHIO,
Things
man.
First,
That's
right
how we
after
produce
this.
them.
OH.
I
Canton's finest.
You know, it's funny. I was at the game, Ohio State, Oklahoma.
Oh.
ET took me.
Oh, okay.
You was there, right?
Yeah.
Two bulls were fighting. Bam, hit the truck.
I could feel the barbed wire just digging into the paint.
Another ding, another scratch.